Welcome to She Rebel Radio, the podcast for high-performing women leaders who want to unlearn conventional rules, leave prestigious careers, and launch businesses of significance. Each week, She Rebel Radio brings you insights and advice from women entrepreneurs who transformed their prestige prisons into daring entrepreneurial success stories. Now, here is your host, Lulu Minns.
Good morning and welcome to episode 5 of She Rebel Radio. 3 key mindset shifts to make your side hustle a full-time hustle. And I was just about to hit record then when an aeroplane went above. I live near an airport. We have new equipment which I am still learning to use effectively. So I hope you can hear the leverage sound in this episode where I'm going to share with you the 3 key mindset shifts to make your side hustle a full-time hustle. And if you haven't met me before, my name's Lulu Minns. I'm an advocate and coach advising women leaving positions of prestige to start businesses of significance. So I want to kick off today with asking you whether you are ready, like really ready, to make your side hustle a full-time hustle. And in this episode, I'm going to give you 3 key mindset shifts that you can take and implement straight away, and stay with me until the end because I'm also going to give you a free download that you can access today, which is really complementary to the content in today's episode. This is really also going to give you kind of scale of assessment of where you are and whether you are actually really ready to make your side hustle a full-time hustle, because there's lots of pressure to do that as quickly as possible. In the online world, it looks like this is possible overnight, and it does take time and it is a process. So I'm going to give you some real candid advice here of where it is that you might be in this scale. So what is a side hustle? The side hustle is that supplement. It's the in addition to your position of prestige, the job that you have, the career that is paying the bills, the thing perhaps that you are more than qualified to do, but yet it's not your passion project. A side hustle is something that you are extremely passionate about that is not paying the bills yet, but I'm guessing that you want it to. And the side hustle gets pushed on the back burner. It's like, the vitamins that we take as a supplement to the main meal that we're eating. It's the backing singers supporting a really well-known artist, and all of those little things are totally disregarded by others as well, which is extremely frustrating. But it may be that your position of prestige, your career, your established field keeps on calling you back or threatening to call you back, and your side hustle is dying a death on the sidelines. And I know how frustrating that can be. So these 3 key mindset shifts, as I said, are massively going to help you not only assess where you are on the scale, but also if you are ready to make those shifts today and start stepping into your full power of making your side hustle a full-time hustle. So let's dive into key mindset shift number 1, and that is being the professional. It is time to go pro, ladies. And you may think, well, I am a professional woman. I have this position. Why would I not be professional in my business? But let's unpick that for a second. What is the opposite of being professional? It's being an amateur. Being professional is our paid occupation. It's the opposite of the side hustle. It's not being an amateur. It's being professional. It's being qualified, and it's taken seriously and not treated casually. So this may resonate with you, that you may have friends and family right now, and even clients and potential clients that are treating your business in that casual way and probably annoying the hell out of you. Your family might be asking about your little project, your little side project, your hobby. Or worse, they might be telling you not to leave your position of prestige. They may be saying to you, when are you going to get a proper job again? I definitely had that one. It's super frustrating. And worse than that, you might have clients or potential clients, business contacts that are really being casual in their response to showing up to appointments, conversations with you, and you're just wondering why no one else is taking this seriously. But what I'm going to put to you today is, are you taking this as seriously as you could be? Because these people are mirroring to you the real language, the real energy, and the real way that you are approaching your business, your side hustle, in a much more amateur way than a professional one. And I was saying this to someone at a networking event today. What I find fascinating and what I see time and time again, and also engaged and practiced in within myself when breaking out to start my own business, was that professional woman fell by the wayside. All of the professional skill set and language and everything that I had fell by the wayside. And there's two reasons for that. One is potentially not having the confidence to put that forward in something that you feel unsure about. But secondly, sometimes it can be for women in particular that are leaving very masculine dominated roles, that we are tearing down those systems and structures and ways of being in order to rediscover who we are outside of that professional self. So sometimes it really is part of the course. It's part of the path, it's part of the feminine journey. So if you have been someone that has maybe been in your business for 12 to 18 months, and that has been what's going on, but now it's got really serious that you need to make your side hustle your full-time hustle, it's simply about inviting that professional person back in. It's about inviting the masculine systems and structures and all of that background and amazing stuff that you already know back to the boardroom, back to the table, and bringing that side of yourself back into the business, and to stop rejecting it. Because as I said, it's a path that I followed, and it's a path that many of the women that I've worked with, that I work with, that are leaving corporate positions and starting something, go through this process. So this is what I mean by really assessing where you are on the scale, because sometimes it's totally necessary to do that, but it may be at the point that you are not needing to do that any longer. And there is only so long that we can do that for. So it's time to go pro and be professional, and to bring that side of yourself back into the boardroom, to the table, and work your business like the professional that you are. Talk about your business like the professional that you are. Don't hide behind. And I used to do that and lead with the fact that I was a lawyer rather than leading with my business. And that is a massive part of what's behind my business, but I don't lead with that anymore. So really look at how you're talking about it, how you're showing up. If you're being really casual, for example, in, hey, book an appointment with me, I'm around later or all of next week, and then wondering why people are not showing up, that is because you're being casual, you're being amateurish, and you're not being professional. So think about what professional ethics or what skills, what knowledge that you already have that you can bring back into the room. So that is a powerful one, ladies. Let's move on to mindset shift number 2, and that is being committed. And it's massively tied in with the being professional, and it's massively tied into the journey that I just mentioned. And it's really interesting when you look at the definition of being committed, because it has two kind of polar opposite meanings, although they are intrinsically linked and complementary of one another. But it may depend on what side of the table you are falling on at the moment. But what I can say is that being committed, and when you're committed, is a real key mindset shift when it becomes non-negotiable that your side hustle becomes your full-time hustle. So let's look at meaning number 1. Being committed is being dedicated to a cause or activity which is long-term. There's an emotional engagement. There's no plan B. There's no backup plan. You're going to do what it takes no matter what. You are all in. You are bound, you are obliged, you are exclusive, and you've decided this is your path and you're going to do whatever it takes to make it happen. And the word decide in Latin means to cut off, not accepting anything else. And I remember that real shift and point in my business that I decided I was all in with my business in its current but evolving form that it's in now. And before that, I had 2 different businesses. And within those 2 different businesses, that was in the first 18 months or so. I wasn't fully committed to either of them. I thought I was at the time, but I wasn't fully committed. And that was because for 2 main reasons. The first being, those businesses were not right for me, and I knew that deep down. I also ran those 2 businesses alongside one another, which shows that full commitment wasn't there. because they had nothing to do with each other. If you've got different strands and things, that's fine, but they were two different things. So I was in this wheel, as well as you've heard me say, rejecting the masculine, rejecting the professional Louise, as I was in the legal profession. I was really exploring and experimenting and not actually wanting to be committed. And I lived on a relatively low income that very first year because I didn't want to be committed, even though I wasn't aware of it, as I've said. So turning to the second meaning of commitment, that's an engagement or obligation that restricts freedom of action. So an engagement or obligation that restricts freedom of action. And with that carries responsibility, liability, pressure, burden, and all of the stuff, which is She Rebels. We're all about freedom, right? We're all around freedom for ourselves and freedom for others. It's a big value of mine. It was a big motivator to me starting my own business in the first place. I was not wanting to give that freedom back up. And where did that come from for me? Well, the previous commitments I've made, and when I've opened this point of commitment, again, you may think, well, I'm a professional woman. I've had a position or have a position of prestige. I commit. Why would I not be committed? But actually look at where that previous commitment has caused you that heavy burden, that pressure, that liability, that responsibility. And my job as a criminal defence lawyer really restricted my freedom of action and carried really heavy responsibility, liability, pressure, burden. And after 11 years, I'd had enough. So no wonder I wasn't willing to fully step back into that commitment at that point. I was doing a lot of self-discovery, and I was doing lots of exploring to also find the right business for me. And I also had to do lots of reframing of what that second definition of freedom. Not that I was aware of that in that sense at the time, but really start to look at how I could commit and create something that wouldn't restrict my freedom of action and make me feel pressured and liable and all of those things, and how I could step into that more and more as I built momentum for what it was that I wanted to do, that I loved. So again, this is the sliding scale. Where are you? You may just be exploring and experimenting and not wanting that restriction of freedom right now, and that is totally fine. But if you are ready, it may be the time for you to be committed, and it may be the time to decide. So we've talked about it's time to go pro, it's time to be professional, it's time to decide, it's time to be committed. And mindset shift number 3 is it's time to fail, and it's time to prepare for failure, because that previous career path that you've taken, it was a roadmap that you could follow, and failure could be predicted. It was probably unlikely if you were academic. In terms of the academic path and climbing the corporate ladder, you knew which steps to take next. And being an entrepreneur, having your own business, you absolutely don't, particularly if you're on the feminine journey as well. You really have to allow it to unfold and trust that the next step will often present itself, even though you don't know what it is. And you can't pre-plan or solutionize everything before you've even got there. And with that comes the risk of failure. So what you need to understand here, in the mindset shift that you need to make for your side hustle to be your full-time hustle, is that failure is not a permanent condition. It is necessary. It is a necessary part of the process, and something that you need to embrace fully, invite in, and learn from it. And you can't stay in fear of it. So that is mindset shift number 3. Being professional, being committed, and preparing to fail. And those 3 shifts will really step you forward into making it non-negotiable that your side hustle becomes your full-time hustle. Now, as I promised at the end that I would share with you a free download which is available to you immediately, which is the breakout webinar. And this is for women called to rebellion and designing success her way, breaking out of those prestigious positions. And I share with you on that live 1-hour webinar training 7 tools for the woman called to rebellion and designing success her way. That is available at luluminns.com luluminns.com/breakout webinar, luluminns.com/breakout webinar. So grab yourself that webinar today. Have a good listen. Do join us in the She Rebel Club. I would love to hear your takeaways in respect of these 3 key mindset shifts. And know that when you do these 3 things, when you're really ready to do that, you can absolutely make your side hustle your full-time hustle.
Thanks for listening to She Rebel Radio, the podcast for high-performing women leaders who want to unlearn conventional rules, leave prestigious careers, and launch businesses of significance. She Rebel Radio is executive produced and hosted by women's advocate and coach Lulu Minns. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe so you never miss another episode. You can find Lulu Minns on Facebook and LinkedIn at Lulu Minns and on Instagram at LuluMinns_biz. Until next week, keep rebelling against the rules and designing success your way.